Today on the Expect Miracles podcast, we have Dr. Michael Haley. Dr. Michael Haley is a chiropractor out of South Florida, and today we'll be talking about the benefits of aloe vera, is buying organic really worth it, cleaning up the confusion on diets, hidden chemicals that might be killing you, and much more. Dr. Haley, how are you today?
Fantastic, Dr. Pecca. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It's an honor to have you on.
This topic is actually going to be kind of fun. I think we're going to bring up some things that not only you can relate to, but pretty much all of your listeners when it comes to what you just said. Is buying organic worth it? When did you start going organic?
I probably started around 2013.
How did that?
Because I was suffering with a lot of health issues. I had brain fog, dizziness, headaches, blurred vision from a bunch of ice hockey concussions. And I really didn't moderate my diet intake at all. And as I started reading and learning more about health, organic and a lot of other things started to come up. So I gave it a shot. And before I tried it, I really didn't think of any difference that it would make. I just thought organic food was more expensive. Why am I doing this? And then once you actually start consuming it, you actually start to feel better. So I'm very excited for this conversation today because I know there's so many benefits from it, and it's nice to talk to an expert about it.
Oh, well, thank you. I remember when I got out of chiropractic school with, more than $100,000 in debt from student loans. And, a lot of the doctors can relate to this. And my wife started buying organic. And at that time, believe it or not, I thought that I could just exercise whatever I ate into good nutrition.
Yeah.
And we were so much in debt and we hadn't started our business yet. So the money was flying out. And I thought, we can't afford this. And there really isn't a difference.
Yeah.
I had a wake up moment around probably 2003. I think it was 2003. I actually read an article in a journal that we probably both have seen before called Dynamic Chiropractic. And it was written by this doctor, and it was about phytonutrition, which is something that I already knew a lot about. But this particular writer caught my attention, and it actually bothered me because I used to teach organic chemistry, and I was bothered because I could tell that this guy knew more than me.
What made you think that?
Just the way it was written, it's like, wow, this guy knows a lot. I should call him.
Mm-hmm.
So we had this discussion about phytonutrition. And at the time, I was actually supplementing my fruit and vegetable intake with a powdered formula. And I said, well, what are you using? And he described this particular product. And he said, but you can't. He said, I formulated this one. I've been using in this, but now I formulated this new product and you can't buy it yet, but I can send you samples.
Uh-huh.
Well, he sent me samples of this particular product and I started taking it, and all of a sudden I lit up with life and energy like never before. And by the way, this show is not about this product. I'm not even going to tell you the product. I'm just going to tell you that it was a wake up moment for me because I realized that I was undernourished. Now, I felt so good. I did not tell my wife at the time. I was concerned. I thought, there's got to be, some kind of drug, some kind of, crack in this thing that is just, is there cocaine in it? Because, I didn't know what it was, but I felt amazing. And I'd go through my whole day, and instead of crashing at the end of the day, I had energy. So I'd be cleaning the house and getting things done.
Mm-hmm.
Well, about a week later, my wife at the time came to me and said, my mom and I had a discussion. We both noticed a difference in you. What are you doing? Are you taking antidepressants? I thought, oh my goodness, my position on drugs. We haven't, our kids aren't even vaccinated, and we don't even give them anything to reduce their fever. We monitor their fevers, and if we had to, we might do something, but they've always fought all their illnesses, and we don't take aspirins, and we don't use, allergy medications, and everybody always gets better. Why would you think I would take drugs? Well, you're all happy all of a sudden, and you're playing with the kids after work instead of just, saying, I need some space, leave me alone. So they noticed this change in me. And for me, that was one of those, aha moments. I wasn't depressed. I was undernourished. I wasn't, so all of a sudden when it came to my wife buying more expensive foods, I realized there's more to this. I'm not as knowledgeable as I thought I was. Open up your mind to the possibilities. Now, going back and looking at it, I can laugh at myself and my lack of knowledge now that I know what's really in the food. I happen to manufacture certain food products, and now I know the nitty gritty, what's really happening in the, from the farm to the table process, conventional versus truly organic. And, if we were to talk about just a few of the main points, GMO, our people don't really understand what GMO is. If I ask somebody what is a GMO, they might be able to put together the words genetically modified organism.
Right.
But what do you think the lie is that most of the people we talk to think a GMO is? Why did the government sponsor GMO?
Yeah, I don't know what most people think it is, or I don't even know if most people know what the word is, but they don't realize that it's harmful or that it
Yeah.
can be damaging the intestinal gut line and all that.
Right. Most people would think it means more food.
Yeah.
It's somehow like they think that somehow we like picked better vegetables that grow bigger and better. But it's funny, usually the bigger they are, the less nutritious they are.
Yeah.
And the lack of color is also a further indication they have less nutrients in them. But if we look at the flagship GMO, which is corn, we say, what are the changes made to the corn? Now, you probably already know the first big change that we know about is called Roundup Ready. What does that mean, Roundup Ready? Well, you see, if you go back to the small town pumpkin growing contest, it's, Halloween just passed, it's that season.
Yeah.
Imagine growing the biggest pumpkin. What's the trick to it? You get rid of all the competition. You get rid of the weeds, you get rid of other pumpkins on the vine, and all the nutrients pour into that one pumpkin. Well, in farming, we get rid of the weeds. If there's no weeds sucking nutrients from the soil, then the corn can grow bigger and better. Well, there's this company, Monsanto, that makes this stuff that we can buy called Roundup, and we spray it on anything green and it dies. But not everything. You see, they sprayed it on this one weed and it didn't die, and they said, oh, what is so magical about that weed? Oh, this gene somehow lets it survive Roundup. What if we put that into the corn? Then our farmers can hook up the big tractors with the spray the whole fields with the Roundup, killing all the weeds, and now we can grow more corn. And well, what is the purpose of Roundup? If I were to use two words, it's to kill.
Yeah.
Now, it's to kill the weeds. Now, when we eat that, the residue that's on does it know to stop killing?
No.
Yeah, and we have this, like you mentioned already, the gut, we have this delicate microflora inside us that we're filling with chemicals designed to kill. Modification number 2 to the corn, you see, we can kill all of the weeds, but what about the bugs? Again, when bugs eat the vegetation isn't as healthy and it doesn't grow as big and beautiful. So somehow, if we could change the corn and make it bug resistant, well, imagine if there was a bacteria that made this sharp protein, and when other insects ate it, they died. Wait a second, that actually does happen. What if we took that gene and we put it into the corn so that every cell of the corn made the sharp protein, and that way when bugs ate the corn, it exploded their guts? Wouldn't that be cool? Well, that's what happens.
Mhm.
That's GMO. That's the genetic modification. So now every single cell of the corn plant has this, well, we're humans. We have thicker intestinal linings than the insects. So it might not explode our guts. It might just be like jabbing them with little
Mhm.
sharp, proteins, irritating our gut lining. Is it
Absolutely.
any wonder why there's so many gut and skin conditions now?
And Doc, how long have the GMOs been in effect for? Would you say that they really started figuring it out and been on the market?
I think I believe that this really exploded in the 70s when the government really started supporting the farmers by
Yeah,
forcing them into this
quotations. Yeah,
corner. Yeah. But we really didn't see the full impact of that, because, oh well, it worked with corn, right? Not really. But now we started modifying so many other plant foods that we don't really know what all is genetically modified and what's not.
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah,
we're losing control of it, and we don't know how
yeah,
many changes they're really making and what the significance is of those changes. And there's no long-term studies. We can't
exactly.
say
That's
that,
why I asked you, because we really probably don't understand the long-term effects it's having on us yet. Well, we
yeah,
do, but it's still relatively early, and there's kids growing up on this food now.
right. And it's common sense. And how are we going to nail any one of the health conditions to any one change? Oh, it's got to be the corn. Well, I'll say that's probably a contributing factor. We're doing other, horrible things to the food. Along those same lines, I like to talk about real food versus conventional food. What's conventional food? Well, we've done all these things to it. We processed it and we packaged it and we filled it with chemicals and colors. And what is the purpose of those chemicals? For instance, yeah, I like to, and this is going to be a little bit of a fun question. If you know the right answer, skip it. Just give me the answer that you can imagine everyone else saying. What is the purpose of a preservative?
To preserve the food so it doesn't spoil.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what everyone would say. Your listeners, when they heard me ask that question, I'm certain that's what they thought. The purpose of the preservative is to make the food last longer. And, that is actually the side effect. If we put in a preservative, the purpose of the preservative is to kill mold, yeast, fungus, and bacteria. That's why we put it in the food. As a food scientist, if I'm manufacturing a food, I'll look at that food and I'll say, okay, let me see what's growing in that food. More bacteria, more this kind of bacteria, this fungus, this yeast. We need a chemical that really kills yeast on this particular food and those other things, but we need more to kill. So we measure the killing potential. In fact, we might even expose the food to that bacteria or that fungus or that mold or whatever, and then add the chemicals and see how much chemical it takes to kill off that what we put in it. So we're measuring the logarithmic reduction of that bacteria, measuring its killing potential. The purpose of preservatives is to kill.
Mm,
When we eat it, does it know to stop killing?
no.
And we're putting these things in us. Why do they put chlorine in the water? To kill.
Mm,
If we're not drinking filtered water, does it know to stop killing when we drink it? You know, it's no wonder why our guts are so inflamed and leaking.
hmm
You know, is it gluten, or is it the fact that your intestines are so raw that when you eat something that has gluten in it, it goes into your bloodstream and your immune system attacks it and everything else now? We've gotten ourselves into this horrible situation where everyone is being exposed to chemicals and our bodies are trying to deal with it, but we're making our intestinal lining raw, making it more susceptible to leaking, which is going to cause immune system problems. I think it's, no mystery why this is happening. It's the food, it's the chemicals in the food.
Yeah. And so, Doc, now that we're jumping into this, how do we regenerate the gut health and turn things around here? Because it's only getting worse with all the GMOs out there now. People need to know how to rebuild and regenerate their gut health.
Yeah, well, bringing it back to the beginning, we talked about, I told you my story about how my wife used to buy organic foods and I thought it was crazy. But now I'm realizing, wait a second, these actually have less chemicals in them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so the first thing I'm going to do is trying to eat more real food, because I can give you a healing plan. I can tell you, well, you need more probiotics or more cultured foods, cultured fruits, vegetables, or whatever the case is. Eat more of these things. But, you and I both know if you cut out the cancer, but don't get rid of the cause, it comes back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing here. It's not a magic bullet, do this, take this, and you're going to be all better. You have to stop the damage. So you have to address both sides of the equation. So it looks something like this. And everybody's different too. I could tell you, well, this is the number one gut healing food. And that might be for most of the people, but everyone's an individual. So you really have to figure out your
Very
own
true.
way on this, because you might have a sensitivity to this particular food. Your body might reject it and it not work for you. Um, but there are some that are tremendously beneficial and super healing. For instance, there's a whole diet built around bone stock soup.
Like
It's
bone broth.
right, yeah. As chiropractors, everybody's telling us to give our arthritic patients glucosamines and chondroitins, and we can do that and they'll benefit. But what is the source of that? And a lot of the products that come in, pill bottles, a lot of them, the source is, shellfish, not necessarily, you know, chicken bones or whatever the case is. We can actually make our own. See, in America, we have so much. What we do is we kill the chicken, we eat the meat and throw the rest away. I was in Dominican Republic last week, and trust me, it's not like that.
Yeah, they're
You
using
eat,
everything.
they use it all. And the way it would look like here, I think the easiest way to do that in America would be, okay, if you're going to eat all the meat, everything that's left over, just stuff it in a pot and, simmer it, fill it up with water so that it's all covered, and leave it on your stove on a nice low heat for about 6 to 10 hours. Pour it through a strainer. Now, if you were to put that into the refrigerator, it should turn into like a thick jello.
Gel, yeah.
Well, that's all your glucosamines and chondroitins and amino acids and things that will not only sustain your nutritional needs, but also help heal your gut lining and your joints, of course. Help decrease a lot of your pains. Well, that's probably one of the number one gut healing foods. Aloe vera is absolutely amazing. When I say aloe vera, if you're hearing that for the first time or if you're experienced with it, no, there are different parts of the aloe plant. And on the bottles in the grocery stores, they all say aloe vera.
Mm.
Some are going to focus on the outer leaf, and products with the outer leaf are really geared to unconstipate you. They have a laxative effect. Some are whole leaf, which is a balance of that and the gut healing part. But if you drink too much of that, you're going to have the laxative effect. And others are the inner gel only. And that's really where the gut healing comes from. And you can have, as much of that as you want. If it's pure and has minimal outer leaf in it, you can have a whole bunch of that and it's not going to cause the laxative effect.
I didn't know this about the aloe vera plant. I mean, obviously you hear it growing up, putting it on your skin after a sunburn and all that, but ingesting it is it's new to me. I mean,
Yeah, well, if you put it on a sunburn, imagine you bake out in the sun and you're burnt and you have a big red spot, and you put aloe vera on it. Imagine that you were lobster red and you put it on your hand, and then you just made a handprint on your chest and you didn't rub it in, then you took your hand off. You're going to see that handprint as it's healing there faster than the burn around it.
yeah. Yeah.
It cuts the healing time in half. That's what the science proves. In the same way, your skin is epithelial tissue, just like your gut. What's epithelial tissue? It's kind of like a type of tissue that excretes and also absorbs. It eats, your skin eats, your gut eats. Your gut eats even a little more and excretes even more. But they're both the same kind of tissue. And the science was done on the skin, but trust me, it is the same in the gut. It cuts the healing time in half or maybe even faster in the gut. And I happen to know this because I've put enough people on it that have had bleeding bowels for, days, weeks, even months, and in some cases years. And I've never seen someone continue to bleed after the third day.
Wow.
I've talked to plenty of them, and I've enough of them. That's funny. Where after 2 days, how are you feeling? I don't notice any change, and then on the third day, this is the best day I've had in weeks, months,
Wow.
years. Somehow it speeds up the healing. Now I have to at that time explain to them, remember, we just gave you something to speed up the healing. We haven't taken away what's causing the damage. Now that I have your attention,
You're right. Yeah.
let's dig into
Now
your
that you're
diet.
healing. Yeah.
Because if I take this aloe away, you're going to start bleeding again.
Yeah. And I think that's the case with a lot of supplementation. It
Right.
makes people feel good for X amount of days, but then they continue their old habits and eating ways, and things don't get better.
Yeah, I think it was Dr. Sid Williams that wrote the book, When Is a Potato a Pill? And, it was something to the effect of what we're talking about now. If you're eating this food to get a certain result, really, you're not using it any different than a drug.
Right.
Have you changed your life to eliminate the cause of your problems? We as chiropractors, we have a different mindset. And it really is foolishness to eat anything, to take anything, to get a result, to fix something without addressing the cause.
Absolutely.
So, to answer your question, what are some of the things we can do to help heal our guts? Find those gut healing foods. Try to get back to I like to ask, this particular food, what do you eat? What would you have for lunch? Did that exist 100 years ago? And if it did, was it the same? Meaning, I had a steak. Okay. Steak existed 100 years ago. Tell me more about your steak. Well, I, bought it from the grocery store. Oh, okay. Was it grass fed? Yeah. Oh, great. Was it grass finished? Was it 100% grass fed? See, what's the difference? Cows can eat grain and get all fattened up, or they can eat grass. And if they eat grass, they're going to be higher omega-3, which is the anti-inflammatory. They're going to be more anti-cancer than, animal food, animal meat, dairy, cheese, whatever you have that was raised on inflammatory grains. I like what Jordan Rubin had said. You've heard it well said that you are what you eat, but I tell you, when it comes to animal foods, you are what they ate.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had that steak and it existed 100 years ago, the cows were out in the fields eating grass. That steak, is that where it came from? If not, you probably shouldn't eat it.
You said something interesting before. You said, was it grass fed? Yes.
Yeah.
But was it grass finished? What do you mean by grass finished?
Yeah, well, grass fed, according to the law, I believe the definition says that the animal has to spend half of its life in the fields eating grass. It's interesting. One of my patients is in the business, and she would, raise grass fed cows. And when they get to about 600 pounds, sell them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would get fattened up on grains, brought up to the 12 or 1,300 pounds. And that is grass-fed beef. But the reality is the second half of the life, which probably replaced a lot of what was on that animal already, was on grains. But it met the legal requirement for grass-fed.
Is there something on the label that says grass finished these days, or you just don't know?
No, there are things that say grass finished, and there are things that say 100% grass fed. But ultimately, you have to know your source. For me, I have a particular source that when it comes to getting meats and things like that, I order from a company in Missouri. And animal foods, by the way, are the smaller portion of my diet, but I definitely consume them. I order them from a source where I know it's truly 100% grass finished, and every 6 months I'll fill up a freezer, and I know that that's better than going to the grocery store and rolling the dice.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, good stuff. So healing the gut can be a long process, but it starts with consuming gut healing foods. It's also an elimination diet. In other words, let's say the bone stock soup works really good for you. Take everything out of your diet except bone stock soup. Once your gut gets under control, if it takes a day or 3 days or 5 days, consume as much of it as you need to keep your energy and sustain where you're at. But probably in a day or two, as you stabilize, then add something to it, such as cauliflower, and keep a diet log. And if it goes good for you, leave that in there. If it doesn't go good, take it out. And you're maintaining a steady normal. Okay, let's add broccoli to it. Let's add, and you build your diet one item at a time, keeping your food log. If you're, as you're documenting what you eat, you're documenting how you feel. I have clear thinking. I have brain fog. Okay, brain fog might be related to the food. So let's take that one out and put in the things that are giving you clear thinking. Indigestion. Okay, let's take that out and, continue building and find out what gives you good bowel function, clear thoughts. You sleep good at night. You have high energy in the daytime. What foods support your maximum optimal potential? Those are the things we want to build our diet on. If you add potato to it and then an hour later you crash and you say, okay, let's take that out, but you choose to have some French fries later and you crash, and you take that and you have some tater tots or some home fried potatoes. You have a problem with potatoes. They make you crash. Get the potatoes out of your diet.
Yeah.
You have to come to understand how you are different than everyone else, and those things that make you crash, you shouldn't eat them anymore.
And a good way to find that out is by eliminating first and then reintroducing.
Correct.
Perfect.
Now, if we get back to the original, fermented foods, some people debate about that. But, it's interesting. I read something that was written about 2,000 years ago about fermented foods. And people don't realize necessarily what this area was in the scriptures. It said, stop drinking only water and use a little wine for your stomach and your frequent infirmities. Now, what is wine? What is wine today, and what was it back then? I remember when I bought a bottle of raw grape juice from the Amish, and I put it in my refrigerator, and I forgot about it in the back. And about a week later, I took it out and I opened it. It made one of those sounds. It had fermented. It essentially turned into wine in my refrigerator. It didn't go bad. I drank it. I didn't get drunk, but I did feel just a little bit.
Yeah.
Back then, the wine was probably more like our kombucha.
Yeah.
Slightly alcoholic, very alive, but it probably took a lot more to get intoxicated. And a lot of people will, see that thing written in the Bible, use a little wine, and they think, oh, that's, that means drinking.
Let's get drunk.
Yeah, this is good for us.
Yeah.
The Bible says so.
Yeah.
It wasn't about that. It was about your health. It said, use a little wine for your stomach. It was a probiotic beverage that is good for your stomach. And when your stomach and your guts are healthy, that's where your immune system, your whole body does better. So these are foods that help protect the gut lining, whereas the chemicals help destroy the gut lining.
Beautiful. And when we're talking about fermented drinks these days, we're talking kefir, kombucha, Anything else good out there that people can get their hands on?
I used to have access to this cultured whey. What's that? Obviously, when you eat things like when you have kefir or yogurts and cottage cheese and stuff like that, sometimes you see that liquid separate, and that's also the byproduct in the cheese making process. I used to love the cultured whey. I don't have a source for that right now anymore, but there's a lot of fermented coconut waters and things that just are very probiotic, and don't be afraid of them, people. That they are it's good bacteria that's supposed to be in your diet. It is no, when you go to the produce department, when you pick out of your garden vegetables, there's bacteria on it. It's alive, living food. It's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
There is such thing as pathogenic bacteria. That's when people or animals get the wrong kind of bacteria on the food, and that could be rough on someone that's not used to having that in their diet. But there's bacteria that is good and beneficial, and if they increase in something such as a grape juice and it becomes wine, that could be very beneficial for
Absolutely.
your health.
I was reading something about ancient scriptures, and they said the best thing that you could put into your body is the closest thing to being alive. So just like food, what you were just saying, food that is alive, and then the other spectrum is that of just bad meat that's just been not grass-fed and just unorganic, and that's just been quote unquote dead for so long. There's probably not too many nutrients in there that's going to be sustainable and help out the body heal.
Right. Yeah. It's I actually manufacture the best. I can explain why, aloe vera product. But I must be honest and tell you, if you can grow your own aloe vera and get it from your own garden, that's better.
I was going to ask you that. I have a thriving aloe vera plant over there, and a leaf was falling off, and I took it off, and I didn't know what to do with it, so I just put it on my skin. But can you actually just like take the leaf off and just kind of squeeze it into your mouth? Do you recommend that or no?
I was on a missions trip earlier this year, and in the Dominican Republic, and my one of the guys on the team was there with me, and we were actually he was translating for me as we were helping this guy that had a big cancer on his head and teaching him not only how to put it on his head, but how to consume it. And I wanted to explain to him the different parts. I said, just touch your pinky in that part right there and put it on your tongue. And you know that
like the gel
face
part?
No, the bad part. And this is a funny thing in a sense, because when you see a baby bite into a lemon for the first time, that face they make. All right. When you do it with the wrong part of the plant, it's that tenfold, even in an adult.
Really?
And watching him was hysterical. Now, it's not going to cause any problems, but it is the reason why a lot of the aloes in the store are very, very bitter. And they can have their benefits. Some people use it as a natural laxative. I, of course, think that's the wrong way to fix constipation, by using something to cause it to loosen. I think more importantly, fix your diet and things will move like they're supposed to. Or, fix the nerve supply to the intestines, or whatever it is that's interfering with the normal bowel function. But anyway, the point being is you have to know how to fillet aloe vera and which part you want to use for what you're hoping to accomplish or consume. If you go to YouTube, how to fillet aloe vera, you'll find one of my videos up there in the top, and that is the best way to do it, the way I demonstrate on that video. So look for how to fillet aloe vera and look for my name on it, Dr. Michael Haley. It's probably the first or second video that you'll find, and it's a 3 or 4 minute video, and it shows you how to do it the right way.
Very interesting. I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, because aloe vera can taste horrible, or it can taste like some people had likened it to drinking water out of a garden hose. It barely has a taste.
Okay, that's probably what you want.
That's what you want, yes. If you're going for the gut healing and health and immune system boosting.
Doc, I actually have a question for you. There are
Yeah.
so many different avenues you could have gone down for the superfoods and healing. What made you choose aloe vera?
Sometimes we don't choose things. Sometimes they choose us. And that's what happened in this case. I had this patient, Rodney Stockton. And, I met him when he was probably 85 or so. And it was amazing because he sure did not look it. In fact, what's really funny, I remember seeing a picture of him in the newspaper when it was from 1958. And he looked pretty much the same as when I met him in the 90s.
Mm.
So when he discovered aloe vera, he was already looking old, but somehow he started consuming it and he preserved what he had left. Well, when he was and he was, essentially carrying, he would come in my office and say, you got to put all your patients on this, give this to people that, have cancer, and, their cancer will be gone in a few months. That's how he used to talk, and he got away with it somehow. Anyway, yeah, I guess because he was small time, door to door kind of thing. Well, I actually had one of my patients on it that had a stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And I had a conversation with her and it went something like this, this is bad. You have the worst kind of cancer. You have a 2% chance of being alive this time next year.
Mm.
If you do what everyone else does in the medical system. If you do what I'm going to suggest, I don't know what your odds are. They might be better, they might be worse. And I didn't say she couldn't do medicine. I just said, you better be doing these things. Well, she decided no medicine, and she decided to drink 3 glasses of aloe vera, start growing sprouts and wheatgrass and no more sugars and all the changes that I had recommended. About 4 months later, she went back for her scans and they said, no longer are you riddled with cancer. You used to have so much cancer, there was nothing we can do. Now you only have 2 little spots on your liver. We can take those out. So somehow at that point, she started doing the medical route, and they went in and took 2 little things out of her liver. And then they said, of course, you need chemotherapy now and all that other stuff. And, what I said to her was, okay, but don't stop what you're doing, because you got to this point on your own without their help.
Mm-hmm.
And so she stuck with it. And, now we're 10 years later and, she is still alive.
Wow.
I haven't talked to her in a few years. Every now and then I'll check Facebook and I see she's there and she's still posting and she's happy and stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she's cancer free. I assume she is. I've had that assumption ever since. And as I check, she's still there.
Either way, she's alive.
Yeah. So when Rodney had died, about 96 years old, he had a heart attack and he died. And, I already knew there's something to this stuff. It's helping people with their immune system problems and with their, bowel problems. And his wife had contacted me, his former wife, and she said, I need help with the company. Something's wrong. And she was elderly, trying to manage it, and it was just falling apart. Well, essentially, we went in and realized that if I didn't do something, I wasn't going to have access to this aloe vera for my patients, for myself. It was going to be a problem. So we took over this product line. I moved it into my chiropractic office. And now I actually hardly see patients from a chiropractic perspective. Not because I don't like chiropractic. I love chiropractic. I still see them. But here's the fact of the matter. There's a lot of good chiropractors. We all lock into our chiropractor because we found one that just has a really good technique that works for us. But the reality is you're going to pass a bunch of them on your way to me. And if I go away, you'll still get what you need.
Mm-hmm.
So I started focusing on the aloe vera because it was a need. I didn't pick aloe. It picked me.
Yeah.
And since then, we took it from a small company in South Florida to just yesterday, we opened up our shipping to the entire world.
Wow.
It was the United States and Canada yesterday morning. By yesterday night, the entire world.
Wow.
So I couldn't do that with chiropractic.
How long have you been in the aloe business for?
10 years next May.
10 years.
Yeah.
Beautiful thing. Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, we've talked about a lot already. Do you have any other questions so far? Because we're all of a sudden we're rolling into aloe. And what do you think people would consume? We just talked about eating it for the first time a few minutes ago. What do you think people eat aloe vera for?
I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Before our conversation, I didn't know people ate aloe vera.
Yeah.
I really did not. And the first thing I'm doing after this podcast is looking at that video on how to fillet it, because
Okay.
I'm going to start doing it.
Excellent.
So, I had no idea.
Yeah, what you'll see on YouTube if you search, eating aloe vera, you'll see some people will cut a section of the leaf with the gel in it and throw that in their smoothies. They're usually trying to get a laxative effect, or
Gotcha.
possibly they just know that because it's bitter, it must be good for detoxification, and they're just health gurus and they know it's good for them. When it comes to aloe on the skin, heals the skin, it heals the gut. But here's the real cool thing. There's actually reasons why it would tremendously benefit the immune system. Oh, and people are also using it for their diabetes because it's known to lower and stabilize blood sugar levels. And I have seen this. I didn't believe that at first. I put a few people on it with their diabetes. I said, well, why don't you consume this for a couple of weeks? And they, since they check their blood sugar daily, they would be able to kind of report back to me. And in every time we've done this, we've definitely seen the blood sugars lower gradually. I think that's related to the ACE man, and there's this nutrient ACE man. And this is cool because it kind of rolls into how it helps people that have cancer. Sugar is what cancers live on.
Yes.
Well, there's this one sugar called mannose that's in aloe vera. And mannose is the one sugar that we know to be toxic to cancer cells. So they'll look at it like sugar. And if I were to oversimplify it, I would say, imagine taking a bite into the biggest bite you can into an apple. And it was a hard apple, and you got your teeth stuck in it, and it was too strong. You couldn't bite through it, but you couldn't open your mouth again wide enough to get the apple out of your mouth. That's kind of what it's like for a cancer cell in the presence of mannose. They kind of lock onto the mannose, and now they can't eat the glucose, and they can't eat the mannose, so they essentially starve themselves. But there's more to it than that. Aloe vera also has been shown to cause the macrophages to secrete more tumor necrosis factor, interferons, and interleukins.
Wow.
Let's focus on the first one because I like the name of it. Tumor, cancer; necrosis, death to factor. It's the factor that causes death to cancer. The way it does that is by lighting up the immune system so the immune system can see the cancer cells and know to go kill them. And the interferons, interleukins work in a similar fashion. It also helps make the gut healthy, which is where the immune system is. It's been proven that, when you consume aloe vera with your supplements, you absorb more of the nutrients. And they did that by testing the blood in people that were given aloe vera with their supplements versus those that just had the supplements. Many benefits why it would light up the immune system and help someone fight a horrible illness. Is it a cancer cure? No. It's one of those things that helps is chiropractic a cancer cure? No. But if we relieve the nerve interference, the body's going to work more like it should, and that's to your advantage if you have cancer.
Yes.
Same thing with aloe vera. It makes your body do more of what it's supposed to. And if that means fighting and killing the cancer, great.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Doc, I have a question.
Yep.
Obviously, this a regimen is different for anybody and what you're trying to accomplish. But if you're just doing aloe vera for ingesting aloe vera for just health benefits, you just want to start incorporating in your diet, how frequently can you do that?
All right. And I'm sorry, I got to roll into another story to answer the question better, because if we generalize aloe vera, again, different products in the store. And I remember when my office manager in my chiropractic office came to me and she said, you know, she was sad. And I said, what's wrong? She said, well, I found out I have breast cancer again. Okay, I'm going to help you with this. You know, don't worry. We're going to starting today. I want you to start drinking 3 full glasses of aloe vera every day. And I gave her a couple bottles to get started. And the next day she was in the bathroom all day long. And, you know, literally like at least a third of the time that she was at work, she was in the bathroom. And I thought it was odd and didn't say anything. But the next day, again, same thing. And at the end of the day, she said, Dr. Haley, is it possible that the aloe vera runs right through you? I said, not a chance. I said, well, you know, I shouldn't say that, because if you bought your aloe from Whole Foods, yes, but not what I gave you. She said, oh. I said, what do you mean, oh? She said, well, before drinking the aloe you gave me, I thought I would finish her, you know, she mentioned her husband by name. I thought I would finish his. He drinks it for his diabetes. And I just, I said, how much were you drinking? I recommended 3 glasses a day. She said, well, I could only do 2. I said, thank God.
Yeah.
You know, 3 might have killed you, you know,
wow.
causing all the cramping and elimination and, you know, loss of nutrients and electrolytes. And anyway, there are different kinds of aloe vera. So ours is the inner gel only, very low amounts of the outer leaf, whatever can possibly get in there due to a, you know, a little bit of sloppiness in the flay technique, which is very, very minimal. There's always some that can get in. We test about 3 parts per million, which is extremely low compared to most aloe vera inner leaf parts. So with ours, you can drink very large amounts. On all of our new customers, I say, for the first week, drink at least a full glass, 8 ounces. And at the end of the week, look in the mirror, because a lot of people will see a difference in their skin, in their complexion. And people will start saying, you know, what are you doing? You're glowing. It's not going to happen in everybody. Some people are very health conscious and eat very well and already have beautiful skin. But a lot of people do notice the difference. And when you start seeing it in your skin, because remember, this is the same organ as your gut. You know, it's like the creator said, okay, here, you're this bag, and we're going to punch a hole from one end to the other, and that's the gut. But it's really like your skin on the inside, more epithelial tissue. Mm-hmm. And as you put that into your gut and it absorbs into your body, it affects all of the skin, the entire bag on the outside and the inside. And the gut and skin are probably the first place where we're going to see a difference.
Beautiful. So Doc, I'm going to include all of your links and websites in the show notes when this episode gets published, but where can people find you online and your products?
All right. Our website, aloe1.com, and there's, you know, aloe.guru is going to take you to my YouTube channel. That's where you'll get the biggest education about aloe specifically, and mostly from a farming perspective, how you would grow it in your own, you know, whether it be pots or in the ground. If you live in Florida or south, you can grow it in the ground, but if it freezes, it's going to die. So you would put it in pots if you're, you know, north of Florida. Aloe.guru is going to be your best source for learning that. Aloe1.com if you want to find out more about our products.
Beautiful. And Doc, I definitely would love to have you back on the show, because you have plenty of more of just a wealth of knowledge on many different things. And I know you have a ton more to talk about. So we're definitely going to break this up into a couple different episodes and have you back on soon. But before we finish up today, at the end of every episode, I like to ask all my guests, what is one piece of advice or something that has really resonated with you over the years that you would like to give the audience? Could be absolutely anything.
Yeah. I would have to go back to the beginning of our show when I had talked about myself having a closed mind to the expensive foods. Let's keep our minds open. I had a pride issue and I thought I knew everything. And then I realized how little I really did know and how I was actually hurting myself by putting chemicals into my body that I thought my body was just, Superman would deal with. Um, we're poisoning ourselves with our food, and the food was intended to give us life and energy and fuel our bodies. So I would say really keep an open mind, and there's no one magic thing for everyone. Everyone's different. You're a unique individual.
Definitely. And you got to find out what works for you.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, Doc, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for your time, and I'd love to have you back on sometime soon.
Sounds great. Anytime. Thank you, Dr. Pecca.
You're welcome. Thank you.